entire competition was actually launched in 25th of April. We had around 104 registrations with 32 teams attending and 16 proposals that got submitted. We are currently in our presentation to the final jury panel. All your designs, the 4 shortlisted designs, apart from being scored by the jury panel, will also go out for citizen voting. This will be put up in the next week for the community group around, and post that we will be announcing the winners on the 24th of July. I would like to take this opportunity to introduce our esteemed jurors, all doing some amazing work out there. Vinayak sir is not here. He's the Chief Engineer, BBMP Projects Department, but we have Hemlata ma'am here, who's the Superintendent Engineer at the BBMP Projects Department. Hema has actually been someone who we have also worked very closely. She has anchored several projects related to Tendershore roads, related to white topping, junction redesigns, under the flyover spaces, reimaginations, and bringing in a lot of innovative projects into the sphere of BBMP itself, trying to anchor that within. She's also been part of several SWM projects previously under this SWM department. Rajiv, who's our next juror, is a program manager with WRI, and all of you all, I'm sure, are aware of the work that WRI does. Rajiv has been anchoring several projects related to transit-oriented development. He himself is an architect and urban planner and urban designer. He is also a project anchor for the Hubli-Dharwad transit-oriented development project currently going on with DAL. The next is Aruna. Aruna is the Joint Secretary of IUDI, also the co-founder of SDEG. I'm sure if you had attended Design Uru, you would have interacted. Definitely one of the anchor persons even for that. She is also has worked on large-scale projects and multiple urban initiatives, and definitely believes in designing effective public spaces. She's also won multiple awards and spoken at many national and local forums about her contribution in the field. We next have Aniruddha. Definitely someone who I have got to meet recently, but the work is familiar to all of us here under the banner of Ugly Indian. Aniruddha is the Chief Design Officer at India Rising Trust since 2014. And he has been a huge contributor through the design and design thinking of Ugly Indian initiatives. He has recently executed a very, very interesting under the flyover redesign project, which is around Mahadevpura zone. Definitely someone to understand how to tactically deal with the present issues and challenges that we have and we are facing in our cities today. Finally, we have Ankit Bhargava. He is the co-founder of Sensing Local, also an architect and urban planner. Ankit has been, and I will say this out of experience, has been someone who has worked extensively with looking at complexity and systems thinking and systems design, and sort of brings to the fore a lot of innovative thinking in this space as well. I welcome all our panelists, and just to sort of ensure everybody has their Excel sheets that are available with them, which is the scoring sheet, scoring parameters. We will actually just finish with the introduction context setting. So I will go through the site a little bit. I have shared this with you all as well, but I will take this opportunity to just introduce the site. I would request that the teams that are going forward do not spend too much time at all on explaining the site, but more into the analysis that you have derived for your respective designs. The site is located, as we had sort of shown earlier and shared it with you as well, the site is located under the Beningahali flyover. It's very close to Old Madras Road, and what you will see is the flyover itself. It's cut off by the railway track that is there. So I'm sure everybody's passed over the flyover, but we don't really usually see what's below. The site itself is surrounded by 2 service roads on either side. It is located in Kasturi Nagar as an area, largely surrounded by residential areas on one side, as you're seeing on this side. It has Kasturi Nagar Park, Swami Vivekananda Park. The Kasturi Nagar Park currently is has 2 metro pillars that's coming in, so it's under development, and the proposal is to be able to redevelop it after that. So we are hoping the imagination from here can go into influencing that. We have the under flyover space almost to the extent of 200 meters. That's quite a wide and extensive flyover space. We have what you're seeing in as the railway buffer is actually a defunct part of Beningahalli Lake, which is not going to be developed. And of course, you have the railway crossing that is there that leads on, and there is an underpass as well near Swami Vivekananda, which is for vehicular access. Just to give you a sense of what we see when we are on site. So Beningahalli flyover, that's the space that we have. We have a very critical junction there. We've got the railway lines, we've got Kasturi Nagar Park, current situation as it is. Swami Vivekananda Park, which is another smaller park that's there on the left side, and Beningahalli, recently developed Beningahalli Lake. This is just a few views of how the site is as of now. The fencing of the site was actually, the cleanup and fencing was done by the community, anchored by them. We currently have one driveway center that is located on the site. Insights from the participatory workshop. So we did several activities. The activity mapping is what I would like to, activity mapping, visioning statement, and a couple of issues is what I would like to bring your notice to. The 3 predominant activities is people who want to go to Vivekananda Park. The second main activity is that they use it as a connection to Old Madras Road. So we have a lot of people cutting across the site. And there are a few vendors there that people stop and shop with. So that's the current activity happening there. But we hope that new activities get introduced and you'll see it in the proposal. The issues, of course, there are several issues on the site. This is all done by the citizens where they sort of voted on the issues. The top 5 issues were unsafe crossings, dumping of waste, speeding vehicles, dumping of animal corpses, which is as well as chicken waste, animal waste, and it was largely an unsafe, it seemed as an unsafe zone because of the lack of lighting. Within this also, the priority was towards dumping of waste, dumping of animal corpses and bad odor, which is really making it quite an eyesore, as well as from the smell perspective, not a pleasant place to be in or around. And through the vision statements, there were several vision statements, like you can see, but some interesting ones that we've pulled out is people wanted would like a walking path, amusement park, look at an access to the lake itself, which was not a direct access, better solid waste management facilities to come in here, animal waste to be taken care of, and wish that the park gets rejuvenated. They also are looking at a feeder bus to the metro and designated parking spaces instead of parking on roads. So all of these issues that are there. Underbridge to be clean along with proper waste management. So of course, these have been visions that came out of the community as well. I will now hand it over to the first team. To all the teams, please ensure that you stick to the 10-minute timeline. Amanat will be anchoring this and ensuring that you follow your 10 minutes. You will not get more time than that. So please keep to the timeline. And then the Q&A is 10 minutes. So if you exceed that, you will be eating into your Q&A time, which our jurors will get time to ask you any other clarifications or questions about your design. I'm going to stop sharing right here. Just one note before you start. So for the jurors, you could spend either the time that the next team sets up to do the scoring or towards the end. So it's completely up to how you would like to do it. It's just that when we finish all the 4 juries, then we will just culminate together separately to compile the scores and see what is the output. Thanks.
Yes, you can get started.
Okay, thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. We are team 290566, presenting our proposal, Urban Rehash for Kasturi Nagar Public Places. Kasturi Nagar, an affluent... Hello? Alekhya, can you hear me?
Yes. Hear you.
Yeah. Kasturi Nagar, an affluent residential neighborhood, landlocked between a flyover, multiple railway tracks, and a large lake, is surrounded by multiple open spaces lying dormant, like the Kasturi Nagar Park, the area under the flyover, a large green railway buffer, and Swami Vivekanand Park. However, despite so many open public spaces, there seems to be missing public life. This could be attributed to the spaces being unhygienic due to extensive garbage dumping, unsafe because of the fast and disorderly traffic, missing crosswalks and footpaths, and lighting. These spaces are also inaccessible as they have been barricaded and due to the wild growth of plants along the edges. Yet, the site comprising of Kasturi Nagar Park and area surrounding it is brimming with the possibility of having a one seamless large open space. There is an opportunity to rethink and redesign the pedestrian movement for better connectivity. The abundance of natural wealth can be banked upon to create a sensory experience and have the sites brimming with flora and fauna. However, in harnessing these trends, redirecting the scattered movement of traffic and resolving the unsafe and complicated junction poses a challenge. Thus, the project Urban Rehash aims to amalgamate the fragmented open spaces into a coherent public place that caters to different levels of activeness, age, social groups, and safety concerns. To engage the diverse population and cater to their varied needs, the design identifies three larger zones. The Kasturi Nagar Park, imagined as the daily use leisure space for adjacent neighborhoods. It caters to various age, social groups, and serves as a gateway for locals seeking relaxation. The area under the flyover is designed as a district-level active public space to attract youth with opportunities to play, eat, socialize in a safe and well-lit environment. And the lush green buffer will be the city-level public space transformed into a picnic spot with lush greenery, cool breezes, and beautiful plants, birds, and insects benefiting from its proximity to the lake.
Coming to the placemaking strategies, to resolve the problem of the unsafe junction here, the traffic is being rerouted so that we can provide a signal control junction here. At the same time, use this whole space as a single public space. And also the idea is to give an inclusive design with respect to gender, age, universally accessible, dedicated spaces for parking and vending zones, and well lit up spaces. Talking about safety, the cobblestone paving and tabletop crossings are provided to reduce the speed of the traffic, and adequate lighting and signages for orientation and bulb outs at the junctions are provided for safety. And for the people coming by walk, these tabletop crossings along with adequate width of footpaths are provided. And for the people coming by private vehicles, these two-wheeler and four-wheeler parking pockets are provided. And for the people coming by public transport, a bus shelter is provided here. Talking about the Nala, the idea is to integrate Nala into the public space design by naturalizing its edges and planting native species around it. So this is the whole master plan, wherein we have included this street in front of Kasturi Nagar Park and the junction also into the design, as they have a strong influence on the site. And these three streets lanes are being redistributed to achieve 4.5 meters wide carriageway and 2.5 meters wide footpath. And these tabletop crossings provide a seamless connection between all the three zones. And the BBMP set is being retained with a facelifting along with a composting unit proposed here. And the Nala, the width of the Nala is being increased at few places, making it as a vibrant water body, integrating it into the public space. So looking at Kasturi Nagar Park, from the visioning workshop, it is understood that people over there require a day-to-day recreational space. So this park is designed for such kind of spaces like walking or jogging tracks, shaded seating spaces, kids play area, open gym, sports facilities like badminton court, space for yoga or laughter club, and a biosphere with a kitchen garden around it. And a plaza space is provided over here near the junction. This is the kind of space in front of the park entrance where we have tabletop crossings and the vending zones, making it as a welcoming feature. Around this biosphere, we can have kitchen garden kind of spaces where people can use it on a day-to-day basis. So this is the character view near the junction. So this is a signal control junction with the tree seating spaces and easy connectivity to the surrounding areas as well. And under flyover area, since it has a road access on both the sides, this is mainly designed where people from the residents as well as people from a little far off areas can also use the space as a hangout space. So small kiosks, food courts are provided along with plaza kind of spaces, and sports facilities like skating rink are also provided. The edges of the under flyover area are a little raised from the road level. Making use of that, leisure seating steps are provided where people can just enjoy the traffic with a cup of coffee. And parking spots are provided on either sides of the road. This is the edge treatment wherein we can have vending zones, proper lighting facility, and seating steps around the edges. This is the character view inside the under flyover area where we have seating areas, built-in seating also, and the food court activities happening. And for the railway buffer, since it comes under buffer area with minimal intervention, this is developed as a picnic spot or a community gathering space, or a small events can be hosted in this space. Even vehicular access is provided inside over here with all the basic facilities like public toilets or drinking water points, etc. And all along the edges, seating steps or greenery is integrated into it. And the water body is also integrated into the design as a attraction over here. And watchtowers and strollways are provided within the green buffer. This is the kind of character view where in these steps, these can be used as morning jogging spots or evening strollways or something. And this is a typical section through the flyover where we can see the seamless movement of people through the different zones as well as edges being porous.
The transformation is thus planned to be carried out in 5 phases, each task improving the quality of public life. To start with, the area and its edges have to be cleaned of garbage and debris to improve visibility. Next, tactical interventions to bring behavioral change like rerouting the traffic, painting crosswalks, junctions, parking spots, and roads, and also generate revenue through paid parking. This will feed into the next phase of developing Kasturi Nagar Park and its edges. Leasable vending spaces can be introduced to further help generate revenue for the next phase, that is the 4th phase of activating the under flyover area. These spaces can be earmarked for smaller gatherings and events apart from the daily life that will occur there. Eventually, the green buffer will be transformed in the last leg of the project development. The revenue that continues to be generated can be channeled into the maintenance of these spaces over time. Thus, the urban rehash proposal rehashes the way we approach our public places and through effective but minimally invasive interventions, transforms the Kasturi Nagar public spaces into a self-sustaining hub for social life, which looks like this. In conclusion, thus the grounded design approach and temporal spaces bring Kasturi Nagar and its public spaces to life. Thank you.
Thank you, team. We can open it up for questions now to the jury.
Yeah, I have a question. This is Aniruddha.
Hi, Anirudh.
Yeah. So there is a large green space that has to be sustained. What is the, I mean, have you considered the maintenance cost and the factor in it? Like, because it's on either side of the flyover, there are huge parks. So the maintenance of these green spaces, especially, and there is a lot of hardscaping as well as landscaping aspect included, which definitely requires some kind of pruning and maintenance of the greens, which is a very big cost. So what you have thought about it, and also about watering these many greens.
Yes. Alekha, do you want to take this question or do I go ahead?
Yeah, please
Yeah,
go
yeah,
ahead.
go ahead.
Okay, so firstly, one of the important interventions for us was rejuvenating the water edge, because we wanted water to percolate into the ground. As it is so close to the lake, we are expecting the water levels to be high. So the larger trees can depend on groundwater. Secondly, for maintenance, that is why we have, introduced the idea of paid parking, leasing out the vending spaces, also adding billboards along the highway, so that these could help generate revenue, which could in turn, be fueled into the maintenance of these parks over the long run, and help maintain the landscape as well as the hardscape.
Just adding to what she has said, all the landscape species that we are proposing here are all native species and more like forest trees, which requires very less maintenance.
Okay. So I just wanted to point out that when it is a public space, it is also about the look and feel of the greens. It's so this survival of greens is not good enough. So if they are able to survive with a minimal amount of maintenance, even if that, I mean, yes, that can happen, but finally it's a public space. You are also trying to make it like a family picnic spot. So the look and feel of the space is very important, which eventually, there will be a lot of maintenance of the greens which will be required. I'm just pointing out.
Yes, we agree with you absolutely. And that is why for the railway buffer, we have proposed minimal interventions, because it is already so rich with the kind of trees it holds in place. So only the
Yeah.
invasive ones we'd probably remove, and keep the existing large, beautiful trees intact, and only propose which is actually needed and which would enhance the whole look and feel of the space.
Hmm. So please add some.
Yes.
Can I have a, can I, Zaruna here?
Yes, yes, ma'am. Please go ahead.
Yeah, hi. Firstly, congratulations. Such good work, great effort.
Thank
My
you.
question is from what I have experienced, and after meeting residents of Kasturi Nagar, they're very, protective, and they're very passionate about their neighborhood, as we all saw, right? So when you design something like this, a very nice node, which is accessible to everybody, not just Kasturi Nagar, it looks like everybody can go there. And so how have you sort of, I mean, I don't know if I've missed it, how have you sort of differentiated that sense of neighborhood sort of feeling versus anybody from city coming and using? Because then the question of Anirudh, like, how does one take the ownership sense of, who maintains it, or what part we say this is for the neighborhood, or where is the dilution or not dilution happening? Have you thought about that? Interweaving of neighborhood and the city level. Where does that happen? Where does that not happen? And I also, in your drawings, now that you've done such great work, where is that fingers coming in from neighborhood, which says this is part of them, and therefore we're giving it out to the city, right? So where is that sense of, did you get what I'm saying?
Yes, yes, we did get your question. Thank you for that question. It's actually a very important question, because like you said, the ownership, people feel that they connect to the space and they are very passionate about it. And that is why when we were transforming, when we were looking at the design, the first aspect that we thought of was the kind of activities we'll be proposing, because activities sort of anchor the spaces. And that is why when we were designing the Kasturi Nagar park specifically, we were very sure that the activities we wanted to give was what the residents, immediate residents, needed or wanted. So it is actually for leisure, the kind of things that you would do on a regular basis, like take a walk, morning walk when you have a routine, or you go to the park with a group of friends. So those kind of activities we made sure to incorporate in Kasturi Nagar Park. Then moving forward, where we would want it to be a little more active, and probably we want more people to be coming in. That is where under the flyover we differentiated. Okay, this place could have more visitors, and what brings in more visitors is more variety of food options, a little more vibrancy, a little more crowd, and that is why we kept the under flyover area a little open and had activities that cater to more people, and to a specific user group that we focused on here was the young people who would want to be playing sports, and that we didn't limit it to just Kasturi Nagar, because that sort of is missing across our open spaces, the opportunity to play free sports, and that is why we tried to keep that within this area. And largely for the lastly for the green buffer, we've one thing that we've incorporated that there, as we imagined it to be accessed by a lot of people, was the bus stop that would be intercity, which would bring people in from all over the city. So that we incorporated at the edge of the green buffer, because we imagined that space to be used by not just the immediate residents, but people coming from afar as well. So connectivity was important for that aspect, to improve not just immediate connectivity, but across the city. And secondly, it was important to have it as a large open space, which could be which could be flexible enough to be used in any way that people wanted it to be. So yeah, I hope that answers it.
Yeah, it answered. I did not say you didn't have any of it. You have all of it. That's the problem. Maybe it didn't come through in terms of clarity wise. This is where, if I consider this as my home from on behalf of Kasturi Nagar residents, there is one level of privacy, then there is semi, and there's public. So where does that one stop and one begin? Because after some time we give this amazing vision, and also it becomes a problem when you can't stop. Who are we to stop public from using this from anywhere, right now we are doing it for the sake of two things. One, primarily the network, the larger level. As an urban designer, also as a Kasturi Nagar resident, one, for me, city is very important. The systems should not be broken, which is your flyover and your metro and under the flyover. The other one is me being a part of Kasturi Nagar. After some time, what we provide should not become nuisance to them at the end of the. That's always a challenge. I don't know how to deal with that. So that kind of clarity, it's there already in terms of your activities, but I don't think it's coming across in your drawing. But yeah.
Okay, noted.
Thanks.
Thank you.
I have a question.
Go ahead, Ankit.
Okay, so some of the some of the issues which are around, mostly around dumping, that is happening. If you look at the issues on the site, how is your design responding to that issue? If you look at number one issue out there was the garbage dumping that is happening, animal waste. How are you solving for that? Second, if you look at the Rajkalue itself, it's actually full of sewage. So how are you looking at solving that? Because you have to kind of solve it by design. Right now, if you look at it, it's pretty much sewage water, right? So opening it up doesn't help. Just the third question, you can just answer it one after the other, is that I see that the edges of whether it's the water or it's the road meeting the park, I do see edges are being of concern, because especially if you look at the tertiary road, which is where the railway line side sort of comes in, that is still thoroughfare. There's actually a city inter neighborhood traffic happening there. So just wanted to understand, and that's also in the railway side. If you look at, you can't really touch the railway side. So I would like to understand your ideas around treating these edges, whether it's the water in the park, the road in the park, the railway in the park, all of these conditions, and the first two questions. So you can just answer them very quickly, 30 seconds.
Just a moment. I would really request the jurors to keep it short. We have only 10 minutes for question answer session. I would also request if there are overlapping questions that have happened, maybe we can move on to the next proposal. So guys, if you can just respond to it very quickly, just in under a minute. I would like to.
Yeah, no long sentences, just like 20 seconds. That's enough.
Sure. So firstly, for the water body, we are naturally treating it. So there are plants that actually treat water naturally. That was one thing. Also, to avoid siltation, we were hoping that we could use natural nature-based solutions again for the treatment of the water body using pebbles and such to stabilize the edge. And for the cleaning part that you said, for maintaining the waste, there's already a BBMP shed that already segregates waste. To that, what we've added is a composting unit to manage the organic waste. And we believe that when there are more people out on the streets, nobody prefers to do anything that is socially not favorable. And that is the whole idea of opening up these spaces, that all unsocial activities are limited. Third question was about the edges, right? So for us, like you said, it's a thoroughfare that goes through the city. So we do not want to disturb that. We just want to slow down the traffic enough that there is easy crossing. So that is why we've used cobblestones and introduced crossings at regular intervals wherever needed.
Okay, I'm fine. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you. We're out of time for this team. Thanks so much, team. I
Thank you,
request the
everyone.
next team to get started, please. Could you stop sharing your screen? Yes, next we have team 290529. Could you please get started? Thank you.
Can you see the screen?
Yes.
Is it visible, guys? Am I audible?
Yes, Sona,
Yeah.
you are.
Yeah.
Yes,
Okay.
you are audible.
So
Screen is
thank you. So good afternoon, everyone. This is team number 290529. So we are going to talk about the proposal that we have, that is the waste to wealth hub. So we try to attempt to integrate sustainable waste management practices with placemaking principles. So it also creates vibrant and efficient ecosystems that maximizes resource recovery. So the objective we tried is to create an innovative urban node that would link diverse ecological resources, transit nodes, movement corridors, and generate a waste to wealth system that would offer citizens of the neighborhood an alternate reason to be proud of. Moving on to the area level strategy for the proposal, it aims to implement sustainable waste management practices that engages local communities and optimize infrastructure to preserve the lake's ecosystem and promote a circular economy in doing so. During the community interaction, the elders of the community spoke about their aspiration to utilize this area for a better purpose. So therefore, we tried taking cues from it, and the broader area level strategy was to first tie up the various assets that is surrounding the site, that is the lake and its fragmented wetlands, the Kasturi Nagar Park, the Vivekananda Park, and finally connecting it with transit nodes such as the upcoming metro station by pedestrian linkages, which enhances the everyday experience of the residents as well. So keeping in mind all of this, we try to resolve movement-based conflicts initially. So we try to redefine the ROW of the highways and the surrounding access roads by rationalizing the carriageway, providing adequate footpath, parking zones, and safe pedestrian crossing, which also we try to use by dissolving the junction to achieve safer pedestrian flow by providing a tabletop crossing. We also try to add new programs in a way to attempt an ecology and economy around the waste. So instead of removing the whole waste processing unit, we have tried to integrate it by providing a high-tech waste recycling unit from which inert waste will be used to produce public art, and it can be reused and sold at the zero waste shop. So the organic waste, on the other hand, from all over the site will be treated in organic compost farm to promote the idea of urban farming, from which the fresh produce can be used in farmers market, and organic cafe to promote recreational activity. So the underutilized wetland will be covered to a wetland park by creating constructed wetland, which will naturally clean the grey water coming from the Nala and the residential area. And soon it will create its own natural biodiversity zone. So this can also decrease the submersion of idle scenario on site by restricting access. And the order can also be reduced by having vegetation of native plants around this whole area. So moving on to the next strategy, we tried connecting the new programs via the green loop. The green loop will be introduced, which will act as a common pedestrian path to connect all the existing and proposed programs. Finally, the urban master plan. We have tried to weave all the programs that we've tried to excuse me one second. We've tried to weave all the functions and programs to all three zones of the site. And this is a view of what we're trying to achieve. And this is one of the view which shows the informal vending and more eyes and surveillance of the site, which is currently, which can be one of the ways to reduce crime or illegal activities that are going on in the site that we try to find out through local conversations, informal conversations. And this is the view of the sculpture garden and the organic compost farm. And finally, this is the view of the park where we've tried to show the pedestrian trail connecting to the under flypath zone. Finally, the impact assessment shows what we try to achieve on site. The whole aim of the project and how we try to see the project is to use waste as one of the main source that will that is not shied away from, but actually integrates the whole community. And we've also
Your voice is breaking. I'm sorry, but your voice is breaking.
Oh, sorry. I'll repeat that. So the whole aim of the project that we had was to use the existing waste segregation zone and allowed more people to get engaged in that specific function and not shy away from it. And by doing so, we also tried to enhance the walkability and reduce the dead and inactive spaces on site, which also generates income and provides a lot of job opportunities for localites as well. Overall, we tried to attain more eyes on the place to increase the safety of the site and also the livability of the whole neighborhood. Thank you.
Thanks. We have a question from Aniruddha already.
Yes.
Could you address that?
Yes. What was the question?
Have you interviewed the garbage collector of that area or any other sample for understanding the existing garbage management?
Hello. Yeah. No, that wasn't in our scope, but rather when we went to the site and already the organizing committee sort of gave us an introduction of what happens there in the existing BBMP garbage shed where waste is usually processed, and the adjoining two wards which are there, the entire waste comes from the two wards and then gets sorted. So we sort of worked around that.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Hello.
Yes,
Come
please
in?
go ahead.
Yeah. The problem actually it looks nice. The proposal looking at the farming and the composting done in the same area. What is the quantum of waste that is being received from two watts? What you told, like there's a two watts the waste is coming. So what is the total quantum that is coming?
The amount of waste, are you
Yeah.
asking?
Yeah.
That no,
Wet
that
waste, no?
no, that wasn't in our scope.
Okay. But when
Yeah.
you make a provision for composting, because composting is when it start decomposition, like when it starts, it gives pollute smells and all that. How much quantity can be, because it's a daily waste that is coming there. So what is the area that has been allotted for that also has to be considered. That is one.
Yeah.
And the second point is like farming also what you have suggested, like what kind of farming you are like who actually for this, it's for the neighborhood or it's someone from the government side, someone need to get them there. What actually your plan says?
Yeah. So for the farming or the organic compost farm, we have thought that not from the neighborhood directly, but rather there are a lot of um, squatter settlements around the site, which is sort of on the adjacent edge of the railway track, which is if we go towards the Beninghali Lake. So we were looking at those quarter settlements, and we were thinking that what if we integrate them into this process, because else we cannot. I mean, the main idea was to integrate the urban core, and therefore this organic compost farming and other related activities like selling the producers will become an alternate income generation for them. So yeah.
Also, one more question I had one for the previous presenter also. The wetland, what actually is is been shown here? It's a buffer of railway department.
Yeah. Hello.
Ah,
Yes. So at present, the from the site that when we went to the site, we have seen that there was already a like a ditch there, and already there was and already the drain that was coming from the Kasturinagar neighborhood, was the entire grey water was directly uh, going into this ditch, and we sort of thought of treating that by making constructed wetlands so that the grey water sort of gets filtered, and then working around its edge to make it a much more attractive sort of a wetland park.
Rajiv, I believe you had a question.
Yeah. I mean, I'm still a little confused about this whole wetland section, because my question was, I mean, one is if you see the Rajkalwa extending and the canal extending to the other side, and it is having a dead end. Firstly, my question was, is that something which is continuing underground, or is it actually a dead end, which means that there is stagnation of water, creating other issues in terms of maintaining that? But the connected question to that was this wetland park, which you have shown. How do you envision to sort of manage that park in terms of its smell and management of the whole park, including the canal? Because I believe that whole thing is an interconnected system. That was one.
Yes.
And my second question was this high-tech recycling depot which you have done. It also, to some extent, will encourage vehicular movement, like the trucks and smaller trucks coming and sort of parking there to get the waste out, right? In how have you considered that to not obstruct the current traffic movement, because the roads are right next to it, or it on either sides, just to figure out how you're going to manage that whole part, the traffic and the wetland, the ecological treatment part.
Yeah. So I'll start with the high-tech recycling depot question. So we have, if you look at the master plan, on the right side of the high-tech recycling depot, there's already a provision that we have kept for the trucks which will carry the garbages, and they will unload those garbages into the processing areas. So that is one way we thought of uh, resolving this issue of so that it doesn't obstruct the thoroughfare and the through traffic of the service lanes of the highway. And the other part of the wetland park was yes, using indigenous species and also having a tree lining all over the edge was one of the strategies that we thought of, which would sort of tackle the odor problem. But other than the odor problem, the most critical problem that we have found there was that people come there to dump animal corpses. Okay, and a lot of illegal things that happens. Now, to tackle that, we sort of thought of increasing the visibility. Now, increasing visibility will also help in stopping these kind of activities to happen, and therefore, yeah, that was the basic, yeah, strategy.
Yes, Ankit, please go ahead.
What is high-tech recycling depot?
So high-tech recycling depot is where so it will have, first of all, one area where the waste will be processed. So already there's a segregation that happens, first level of segregation that happens in the households, and then it comes there to the high-tech depot, and where another second level of segregation will happen. from one where organic and inorganic waste or inert waste will be sort of segregated and further processed. And since we talked about zero waste shop and all, where these waste would be processed and then further sold there, or will be used to make public art or those kind of associated things. And other than that, the organic waste will be there, will be used for the organic compost farming. Yeah. So it will actually have all these functions together. So yeah.
So one of the things that has been mentioned, I'm sure it came up in the discussion with the community as well, is that they did not actually want the dry waste center there at all, because it wasn't catering to that want.
Yeah.
So in a way, by us expanding that, you have kind of have to justify that land that they actually want to be used for recreation and other things is actually going towards some other thing. And the way you're describing high-tech depot, it's sounding the same as dry waste collection center. I don't know what the difference is. The other point I want to, so I also don't understand what farming under the flyover means, because it's not as if you get sunlight there most of the time. So for me, like, they're not making, there's dissonance happening right there. I also don't see the Raj Kalway extending itself from the park to the wetland in your drawings. I see that missing. Fourthly, I think the imagination of the wetland park as you have it right now is probably the way you've drawn it is closer to a lake, which to me sends wrong signals to the person looking at the drawing if they don't know about what's happening here. Because it's actually, if you look at the site right now, the water from that wetland is actually draining into the Banaganahalli lake. It is draining. There is actually a hole where it goes through, but the level would be much lower. And it's not as if you'll actually see much water at all. So for me, the drawing is sending a false impression of the reality, even if we implement your design. So I kind of have 2-3 issues that are there, which one is this waste issue, second is farming, and the third is the okay, and the wetland. Yeah, okay, I'll stop. Yeah.
Are there any other questions or comments? All right, thank you. Thanks, team. We can get moving on to the next team now. Team 290565, please present.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. Are we audible?
Yes.
And you can see our screen, right?
Yes.
Yes, all right. So we are team 290565 presenting to you Hattu Nerilu or 10 Nerilus. Starting off with our site analysis, which is divided into 4 verticals. Starting off with landscape, the site is located in the Koramangala Chalagatta Lake Valley. In terms of landscape, there is a mix of unplanned or wild vegetation as well as pockets of planned vegetation on site. In terms of terrain, the site towards the east slopes down towards the lake, and the roads from and to Old Madras Road slope towards the central junction and slopes down further north. We've identified the Kasturi Nagar Park and the area above the flyover as potential rainwater catchment points. Coming to our landscape strategy. Landscape varies from light to medium and progresses towards dense landscape towards the lake. In terms of water collection, we've provided recharge pits as well as water filtration and storage tanks throughout the site. Talking about culture, the site is nestled in a primarily mixed-use land. We have the Bangalore One Center towards the north, as well as the Swami Vivekananda Center towards the south, which are major public spots closely proximate to the site. In terms of stakeholders, we have 2 broad categories: global stakeholders, which are any kind of public passing through our site by foot or by road. And in terms of local stakeholders, the residents from the nearby localities and neighborhoods visiting the site. In terms of program, our program responds to the various use cases, various users, and certain issues that the site faces at large. One major intervention is the BBMP shed that is located currently under the flyover has been strategically shifted towards the local neighborhood in an attempt to make sure that it is properly maintained and kept clean. There is also a dedicated zone towards the north of our site for delivery personnel in the form of a rest point. And this is being placed centrally with easy access from both the flyover as well as the service roads. Coming to connectivity, it is very clear that the site currently is largely vehicle first, wherein we have highly congested traffic nodes with fast moving vehicles that ply on the roads throughout the day with very little importance that is given to pedestrian movement and accessibility. So this is kind of addressed in the strategy by viewing the site as a pedestrian first zone, wherein any kind of vehicular movement is seen as an intrusion into this primarily pedestrian site. This connectivity is further enhanced by adding continuous footpaths and zebra crossings throughout. In terms of safety and hygiene, it is very clear that the site suffers from levels of degradation, such as garbage, etc. We have viewed the site in the form of 3 different areas, moving from uprooted, neglected, and highly polluted. In terms of our intervention, providing for various amenities such as public washrooms and dustbins throughout the site would help mitigate the issues caused by pollution. The aspect of safety is kind of treated through various levels. The program itself is designed such that the site allows for a lot of activity to happen throughout the day, keeping it very busy and safe. Various design elements have also been added to ensure that it is well lit. Coming to our concept, our design mainly stemmed from the existing columns on site, which helps create nulus or threads that ties together the various spaces. These then go on to form nerulus or bays, which are surfaces for building our various site level programs. These create or frame these perspective zones for various activities to take place. Nulus translate to these vertical elements in the form of bollards, landscaping, trees, posts, pillars, etc.
So after having created the 10 zones or the nerulus, so we have different types of zones for each one of us. We have yoga recreation zones, open schools, dog parks, senior citizens park, flea market, and different scales of gathering space as we move on and see in the master plan. So after having identified the 3 zones as the uprooted, neglected, and the polluted, the master plan took birth from that. The first thing that we tackled was on the south, we closed up 1 lane of the road to include it within the under flyover space, and that allowed this turn to become allowed the vehicles to slow down as such, because our overall aim is to make it more pedestrianized, and this turn allows you to do that. And on the north, we introduced a loop road to access the BBMP shed for the trucks in the mornings, whereas in the evenings, that same road top space acts like a parking for the food trucks to park themselves away from the main road. And the shifting the BBMP zone here on the north creates us this large uninterrupted 3.75 acres urban space here at the bay. So we didn't just look at it as on a master plan level at this scale, but rather we looked, as we discussed earlier, there are these 10 bays that we created running from west to east. So that's helped to bring down the scale to a human level, having had 3 subspaces. Like if you say Nerulu 1 would have the BBMP shed, and then the delivery zones, delivery persons parking would be here and resting pot. And the Nerulu 2 would have the multi-purpose space for yoga, for hubbas, for music festivals, and then the steps under the flyover, and then another seating space in the lake buffer. Nerulu 3 would have the more children's berm and tree climbing zone in the park space, and a vendor space towards the west. Since we didn't want this second main road to become against street vendor infested on the residential side, but rather towards the park side. Then Nerulu 4 has a park and nursery with step seating on either side, so that the access is not broken, so that the perspectives that we mentioned before are unbroken from west to east, and then a neon tree in the middle that we'll see further in the walkthrough. And Nerulu 5 has a citizens park with their own 1.5 loop around it, which should not be disturbed by the continuous walking path around, and that overlooks the skating park under the flyover. So, and then coming to Nerulu 6, we have the dog park, which is cordoned off by the bollards. If they do not want, say, the dogs should run helter-skelter, people are apprehensive about that. Spread across 6 and 7 Nerulu is the 2 badminton courts and basketball courts. And then Nerulu 8 and 9 has the police watchtower, the orange color one that you're seeing there, which acts like a visual anchor element for the traffic junction and the bus stop there, and also the temporary exhibition space under the flyover. Finally, on Nerelu 10, we have a space for people, for a temporary gathering space for the RW meetings, for any demonstrations as such.
Coming to the walkthrough, we will be starting from the second main road, abutting the residential area, and gradually move towards the flyover. So starting off with Nellore number 2, this is for yoga, recreation, and Haba area. This is Nellore 3, which is a children's zone. Nellore 4 has a plant care and OET area with pods for areas like daily dump. This is Nellore 5, which is a senior citizen zone overlooking the skate park. Nellore 6, which is the dog park. Nellore 7 and 8 comprises of the bus stop as well as the police watchtower area. Raised pavement markers as well as painting the roads helps reinforce the concept of pedestrian first area. Slowly moving on to the children's area under the flyover. This is a children's art display as well as Wi-Fi enabled neon tree zone. This would be the children's skating area. We've clad the columns with these Channapatna inspired FRP moldings to respond to the sharp edges of the columns as existing on site. Thank you.
Thank you so much, team. We can open it up to questions. Ankit, would you like to begin?
Can I go ahead?
Yes, please go ahead, Raji.
Yeah, I mean, it's nice that individually the elements have been brought in, but the fact that you started your whole conversation saying that it is document Nerelu and using those lines cutting across using columns as references, the way I envisioned that was, I mean, you also started another slide of landscape, the way it's distributed from light to dense landscape, right? And the fact that you're talking about Nerelu as a concept, I somehow was trying to vision this more as using landscape as a medium to sort of have a seamless flow from left to right, and how are you defining those lines in order to treat your spaces using shade and landscape as strength. But eventually, for some reason, when you start breaking them into the smaller components, the left side is where you've done a lot of pocket spaces, but then I somehow felt the transition from left to right was completely lost when you moved from your primary concept to actually showing, because if you see the park on the right, it doesn't have any translation of those sections which you're talking about. Eventually it becomes an independent element. So I mean, if you want to take your same concept of columns to the actual translation of design, I was really hoping that if that language could have been translated in some way to the other side of the site, and also using landscape as a medium to sort of do that. And the other first doubt I had was the roads which you're saying that you want to prioritize pedestrianization there. Is it open to traffic or you're planning to close it for traffic?
So answering the second question, it is open to traffic, but our ideal thing is because of it being painted with the surface in that way, in this alignment, and with those markers at regular intervals aligned with the columns, we believe that the vehicle would slow down, and it would be like a feeling of intrusion in the vehicle commuters and not insane the pedestrian.
Okay, so if that is the case, I mean, that is the other literal roadblock I have for, while you're assuming that psychologically because of these elements they would slow down, but someone who wants to reach fast somewhere, he would still speeding that up, right? So there are other means to actually create them as heavy traffic slow movement zones, while you facilitate that kind of a movement of pedestrian from left to right. I mean, if you would have explored certain options of materials and design areas which could slow down the traffic, or maybe create alternate loops. I'm not sure how practical that is, where some portion of this, if that would have been restricted to traffic, also would have worked. But if that's not possible, at least there are ways to slow down, not just by paint, but many design ideas and materials. But the crux of the whole point which I was trying to make was, one is if you'd have used landscape as a strength to move from left to right, and even use the underpass of the space under the flyover as a continued space, and using your sort of lines, leading lines from the columns. I mean, I would have seen that as an actual translation of your core idea to the design. I somehow feel that that translation into the practical aspect of the design is somewhere getting lost. Yeah, thanks.
I'd request other jurors to share their questions, please. Aniruddha is asking about the provision of parking.
So we haven't provided for any permanent parking. Only food trucks parking is provided here in the Nehru number 2 on the north. Yeah, and the bike parking for the delivery point. There's no parking given for four-wheelers or say two-wheelers. Yeah.
Maybe dedicated parking.
Sorry, I'm sorry, I'm coming. Any reason why you're prioritizing food trucks and Swiggy and all these people so important? Is it a need in that area there?
Right. So since the area as such on the left-hand side is harbored by a dense neighborhood zone, we imagine there's lots of zipping around of delivery persons. So, and this is on the flyover. So any delivery person can come down from the flyover, pop in, park, rest and go out. And even the second main road delivery persons who are entering, they can, that's the reason why we have prioritized.
So, okay, one question. Am I audible?
Yeah,
yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, what is your thinking about the future scenario when the Beninganahalli as well as so Beninganahalli metro station coming there, let's say within next 5 years or three to 5 years of time, and then Bayappanhalli is on the other side of the. So this is kind of a conduit, and probably this is going to get used much higher than what it is getting used now. What are the future aspects about the mobility that you have taken care of, or what is the thinking that has gone into it regarding the future scenario of this space?
So in terms of future mobility, I mean, as we see right now, also considering the fact that there will be two linked metro stations, what is usually common between this is there's a feeder bus usually that connects two metro stations. So we've provided for a sort of like a flat urban plaza, which could function as a bus stop. And this space would be like a collection hub, a place for people to stand, like a pedestrian node, essentially, like almost like a signal point, waiting for buses, etc.
Yeah.
And the place in general, I think, is like a collection pit of people. We've integrated all kinds of activities and possible programs. So this is a good, like a pause space for anyone who's in commute, who's moving from one place to another.
Okay, one quick question about what thoughts about the Swami Vivekananda Park, which is existing right now. I don't see anything that you are doing there, or what is the thinking here?
Right, sir. So at least from the technical perspective of the competition, we were told this is an area of influence, so we could not propose any build structure, any strong design elements as such. We have only extended the painted road surface until there. We haven't really proposed anything since our side boundary ended, unfortunately, here along the second main road.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
We have time for another question. Ankit, would you like to read it out, please?
I can wait if anybody else has a question.
Sure.
Any other?
Aruna, Hemlata, did you have any questions or comments?
No, I more a comment than a question. I see a lot of fragmented moments of nice things happening, and then at the first, Rajiv had a valid point of how is it transitioning from left hand to right hand. I mean, right now I see all of them in isolation. I think there is a greater idea, but I think it's not come through from the segregated functions, and how does it then translate it under flyover, and then it goes to maybe there's that's all. Otherwise, every question has been asked, I think. Again, my question to not just Team Nerulu, like Anirudh rightly pointed out, this is going to be one of the, most confluence points once the metro comes up. Then how does this then transform into, catering to that transit is another, not just for Team Nerulu. I don't think the last two teams also addressed that. So yeah, just comments, just thinking through.
Okay, I will then just I just have two small things, and how much time is left? Because I can
We
address
have
accordingly.
a minute and a half.
A minute and a half. Okay, so since you're thinking of this as a pedestrian first space, was there any thinking to get rid of, for example, the road in the center or the road at the rear? The central one in specific, because you are primarily connecting the under the flyover space to the park. Was there thinking to kind of fully pedestrianize it? Because painting on the road, I don't know if you've done this before, but it doesn't last more than a month. So it's a highly tactical measure. It's not at all a permanent measure. In fact, no vehicle slows down just because there's color on the road. And secondly, so we can take that. And the second comment I just want to make that I think I was quite surprised that to an extent, or using pillars as a way to organize the space, which is very strange actually as a collective space, is an interesting idea for sure, because it's giving a way to structure the space and also divide and cause many things to happen at the same time. But to me, it actually looked like a highly overstimulated space. Like it's almost like a pop art, and it's not even real. Like I can't ever imagine this implemented because you'll bankrupt BBM. Like it's just the amount of elements that are there, the amount of things that are happening. So just like trying to understand the idea of overstimulated sort of plan on one side, and second, like, did you think about the road sort of becoming pedestrianized fully, if being pedestrian first is your priority?
The question, respond to the first question of this middle road which connects to the flyover. If we wanted to make it completely closed off for vehicles, yes, we did. That's a very ideal situation. But we saw the vehicles movement as a necessary evil, because then those vehicles would start overloading second main road and then loop back near the Bangalore One Center. So yes, our stance would be not to make it for closing off for vehicles, but apart from the tactile measure of painting it, I don't know if it got captured or maybe it got lost in translations. Along those center lines of the columns, those nulu that we talked about also translate as this raised pavement markers, which are these yellow color pucks that are just placed along, which happened nearly 10 times. So that also aids, apart from the temporary painting of the road surface to slow down the vehicles, is what we believe. So that's about the road part. And coming to your second question part about it being divided and using the column center lines to divide it and it being overstimulated, yes, it would appear so it would overstimulate, but our aim was that it should not just function on a big scale as a big urban space, but dividing into these 10 zones, which vary from 10 to 12 meters in between the columns, which are say 30 to 40 feet. It helps to bring down the scale really. So that was the reason of using the columns as a guiding principle of the concept as such. And along those grids is what these smaller pillars start getting placed for wayfinding boards to help one orient themselves in such a large space.
Thanks, team. We're out of time. I request you to stop sharing your screen now. Team 290590, please begin your presentation.
Hello, am I audible?
Yes, yes, you are.
I'll share my screen. It's visible, right?
Yes.
So good evening all. We are delighted to present today our project, Recharge, Revitalize, Reconnect, or as we like to call it, RRR. When introduced to the project, the one aspect of the site that we connected instantaneously was the lake nearby. We saw the site as a space not just for the residents of Kasturi Nagar, but for the whole of the city. The site can be seen as prominent green space in the Bangalore's otherwise densely built up locality. Almost instantly, you know that we had to strengthen this connection of the site to the lake and enhance this green space to accommodate the needs of local residents, preserve the natural scape. The disconnect of Beningahali Lake from the traditional canal system of Bangalore lakes was observed to contribute to many inconveniences during the rains as a result of flooding. This paved the way for the site to be utilized as a zone for effective stormwater management in the area, catering to the challenges such as flooding of the Kasturi Nagar underpass. Another problem that we came across from the community engagement was poor access to the main roads. Due to the absence of safe and walkable infrastructure to the new metro station at Old Madras Road, pedestrian access is limited, which increases the vehicular use and worsens the traffic, especially during the peak hours. We wanted to enhance this connection to the Old Madras Road by improving and creating a safe pedestrian access to the Old Madras Road and upcoming metro station. This would help to promote walking, cycling, and improving overall health of the citizen in the neighborhood. So for the development of our project, we focused on three main aspects of the local's vision. One is proper waste and drainage management, which will help in creating safe and hygienic community space for the local residents. The second aspect was creating varied experience for all age groups and gender by providing spaces for play, recreation, and rejuvenation. The key idea here is to create a space that is safe and accessible to all. The third aspect is to re-establish the connection to the lake, which is disrupted due to the infrastructure around built to serve only the motorized vehicles. So these issues bring forward and highlight the potential of the site for creating a variety of green spaces where users can engage with the site through multiple placemaking and community building activities. Based on our understanding of this site, we came up with the concept of recharge, revitalize, reconnect for this site. The first part of the site is envisioned as an urban park where the residents of Kasturi Nagar can recharge after a very long day. The second space under the Beningahali flyover is revitalized to become an active space, not just for the residents of Kasturi Nagar, but the entire city. And finally, reconnecting the people of the area back to the lake is an integral part of the design because we found that people of the area had a deep nostalgic connection to the lake. Now coming back to the spatial planning of the site, our design aims to connect and integrate the different parts of the site into large urban park using an integrated network of trails, paths, and boardwalks that connect to different types of activities nodes within the park. We use water as a running theme that is celebrated throughout the park using water features such as retention ponds, grassways filled with water running along the trails in the recharge zone. The acrylic art installation on the flooring that symbolizes and reflects the water in revitalized zone under the flyover, along with a shallow water body that continues the narrative of water under the flyover. In the reconnect zone, we have visualized the space as a wetland with a number of bio-infiltration ponds and bioswales that connect to each other, as well as the act as a miniature of the lake, traditional lake systems of Bangalore. So moving forward, these sites serve as a stormwater management system of surrounding areas by incorporating blue-green infrastructure such as rain gardens, running parallel rain gardens, bioswales running parallel to the roads, which are opening into the retention pond, from where surface runoff is then carried to bio-infiltration ponds, to bioswales, and finally draining into the lake. Moreover, by keeping the total hull built-up area to the minimum, the site acts as sponge for the stormwater. This would also help to effectively manage the stormwater runoff and reduce the occurrence of flash floods, which disrupt the day-to-day activities in the area. The network of integrated pedestrian trails is an important part of site design and planning. The green ecological connection here refers to the series of trails and paths that are connecting to different green spaces present across the site. The connection to the lake consists of a series of boardwalks, ground trails, underpasses, and overbridges to provide access across the railway track. To provide the connection to the old Madras Road, we have established a pedestrian walkway incorporating the existing Kasturi Nagar underpass and the existing walking trail along the southern part of the Baningahalli Lake. In order to ensure safe accessibility throughout the site, improving the existing streetscape by providing better street infrastructure like street light, walkway, ramp, etc. is also an important aspect of our design and plan.
So we have divided the site into multiple activity zones based on the requirements that came forward as part of our community engagement and mapping exercises, with keeping in mind the location and the footfall that the activities will generate. The Kasturi Nagar Park, that is towards the west of the site, is planned as a community-centric park where majority of programs cater to the residents of Kasturi Nagar, as the park is near to the
You're not audible. Your voice is breaking.
Hello, Aditi. Just a minute.
Sure.
The area of the flyover is planned as a dynamic space that transitions seamlessly from
Sorry, but your voice was not coming through. It's breaking.
Yeah, just a minute. We are resolving the issue. Sorry.
Hello, is my audio better now?
Yes, it's better now.
All right, so I'll just continue.
We lost
so we
whatever you were saying for 30 seconds. Sorry, we didn't hear.
All right, I'll just
you can go through again the whole
yeah.
slide. You can go.
So we have divided the site into multiple activity zones based on the requirements that came forward as a part of the community engagement and mapping exercises, with keeping in mind the location and footfall that the activities will generate. The Kasturi Nagar Park, that is towards the west of the site, is planned as a community-centric park where the majority of programs cater to the residents of Kasturi Nagar, as the park is near the neighborhood. The area under the flyover is planned as a dynamic space that transitions seamlessly from day to night with changing activities. The part next to the lake is planned as a minimal intervention and ecologically sensitive park where people can engage with the local plants and different species of birds and animals that nest in and around the lake. The recharge zone is primarily developed as a community-centric zone where large open spaces are provided to allow flexibility of use based on the community needs for different types of community gatherings and programs. Within this area, we have also incorporated jogging tracks, open-air gyms, and playgrounds for children to promote physical fitness and health in citizens of all ages. Relaxation gardens provide space for leisure and can also be used by the senior citizens to reconnect with nature while relaxing. Within this zone, we have also allocated a zone for community farming, which can contribute to strengthening community bonds and can also help in effective waste management by promoting organic composting techniques. This would also encourage the use of organic and homegrown produce that will enhance the health and the quality of life of the citizens. We are envisioning the recharge zone as an oasis for the Kasturi Nagar residents, a place where community grows and interacts. One of the most important features of this space is the waste management aspect, promoting the circularity of food production, waste generation, and waste management in terms of infrastructure and construction materials. We want to keep the space as natural and low maintenance as possible by promoting the use of local materials and practice reuse and recycling wherever possible. The covered and the shaded area under the Beninganali flyover allows for the space to host a myriad of activities that were missing in this previously derelict urban infrastructure. Here we have used the principles of placemaking to activate the site to create an urban space that supports local produce by providing spaces for weekly flea markets and farmer markets while allowing the flexibility for multiple uses such as vending, educational fairs, exhibitions, and small events. This area also facilitates sports activities like skateboarding and wall climbing that are not commonly present in the Indian context. One of the key features that came out of this community mapping exercise was poor to no light infrastructure under the flyover area and the streets, making the space feel unsafe and inaccessible at night. The most prominent feature of the proposed space is the dynamic quality of the urban landscape that transitions seamlessly from day to night, where the light installations light up after the dark, making the site safe and accessible, keeping it active throughout the night. We are imagining the area under the flyover to be well lit, not just with the activities such as vending and temporal markets, but also a series of light based art installations that could further add to the character of the space and can also give it a unique identity. The site is designed to enhance the biodiversity by providing a habitat for local birds and animals, by incorporating native plants, trees, and shrubs to create ecological corridors and support local wildlife. The most important part of the design is the connection to the lake, where the residents are able to access the lake as in the older times. Ecologically sensitive and natural design features on this part of the site help with the stormwater management while also encouraging the people to engage with the local flora and fauna. The use of rain gardens, bioswales, and retention pond as prominent design features of the site also double as educational opportunity for the visitors. We are imagining the Reconnect Zone as a series of boardwalks meandering through different landscapes within the site, providing visitors the opportunity to connect, engage, and educate themselves about the lake ecosystem and how important it is to the city of Bangalore. Viewing decks and watchtowers can be incorporated in this part of the site where people have the opportunity to pause, reflect, and interact with nature. To conclude, through this design intervention, we want to enhance the existing natural and built environment while addressing the ecological and social challenges that the site brings forward. Through our design and planning strategies, we hope to promote sustainability and increased community engagement that not only helps to liven up this area, but also further helps in the long-term maintenance of the quality of the space. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. We can open it up for questions now. Aniruddha.
I have sent one question.
Yes, Aniruddha has a question. There is a windway tunneling effect because this site is on the east-west open conduit from lake towards road leading to Banaswadi. What will be the impact on the waterline trails?
You're talking about... Sorry, Kelly, you continue.
Yeah. So, so the effect of I'm just I'm trying to understand the question that how the wind is affecting the water. That's what they are trying to say.
Wait a minute. So basically, just I wanted to know your thoughts. Have you thought about it that there is a major wind conduit that is happening here because it's east-west, and how it will overall impact your trail farming and all these activities? You know, have you considered the wind as a factor to think about when designing this? And how you
actually sorry, yeah. So actually, when we were thinking of the water management, we were thinking of just the surface runoff, not particularly the wind, which will change the movement, because most of the bioswales and greenswales are like thin strip, and and the main inlet is from the Raj columns and the drainages which are running parallel to the road. So more or less, the wind is not going to affect the surface runoff. Basically, that was what we thought. But yeah, we can also enhance and use this as an opportunity for further development.
Yeah. So
just to add to, I'm sorry. Continue.
Yeah. Continue, please. Yes.
Yeah, I mean, just to add to Kelly's point, I think it is a great question, and we had not actually taken it into consideration. And moving forward, I think it can be an important aspect to keep in mind while designing.
So good. So do that when you will be doing another design, or even in this project. But wind has a tremendous effect here, also because of the setup of this place. So it is basically on one side there is a neighborhood, I mean residential zone, and wind basically when you are keeping open land as an open thing, especially when it is there are land for farming and all. So it will create a lot of dust when there is no crop there, or there will be dry periods. So when there is an open ground, there is a liability that there will be more of a dust which is flying in the overall area. Also, when it is a kind of a little already there is a green cover, because it is on the fringe of a lake, already there are a lot of big trees and all. So wind also carries a lot of leaf litter, and it spreads it across the area. So if there are water line trails, the leaves will settle on it, into it. So there will be a maintenance activity which will be higher for the maintenance of the water line. Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, yes.
Thank you. I request other jurors to share their questions and comments, please.
Can I just mention it? It's pretty, I mean, it's rather easier to ask than type.
Please do.
Yeah. Could you please go back to your initial diagram on the water movement, the first map?
Yes, sure.
Is this indicating the slope of the ground and the way water moves, or what is this indicating? Is what I wanted to understand. The blue arrow.
So yeah, this is what we are trying to basically play with the water. As the Rajkulavs is going straight, we are trying to bring in the water from the Rajkulav. Can you see my cursor?
No, yeah, I do understand.
Yeah, so
sorry,
that is the, so yeah, so we are taking it in three zones. Like first, primary will be primary in the recharge zone. Then it is taken to the more of a natural zone where it is being retained, because most of the time what the surface runoff, it accumulates, and that is then gone into the, because the underpass is towards the south, the water is then clogged over there. So we're trying to delay the water over here by using this vacant land and putting the bioinfiltration pond. So that is the main idea to
No, I mean, I
avoid
get
the
it.
problem.
Just hear me out. If you see the arrow mark towards the left, right, where you say written as grass swale to the left side. So essentially, if I'm assuming my slope to be from east to west, because you have the lake on the other side, right? So essentially, my movement would be downwards, which is going from east to west, right? But if you see the arrow mark which indicates glass swale is actually going against the slope direction. You're getting my point?
Yeah.
So,
just to
let me finish my question. One is, first to understand why you have created this kind of a pattern is, I mean, I was presuming that firstly based on the movement of the sloping lines, of the contours, but that also is equally reflect on your pedestrian movement, which you are talking about, right? So the two questions I had was, one, I mean, on what logic did you determine this whole movement pattern of water? Because some arrows are going against the water direction. Second is, if you have determined that in the pedestrian layer in the next one, nowhere in the whole presentation you actually did address about the movement of vehicles which are also cutting across this, right? For me, this is you've shown it as a project which is within one confined project area, which doesn't have any other external influences like traffic movement and so on and so forth. So if you can just address these two, one with respect to movement of pedestrian versus vehicle, secondly these arrow marks of water movement.
So to answer the first question with respect to the movement of water, towards the right side, that where we have our the ecological park, where the wetlands are. So there we know that the water is actually sloping from the west to the east. And within our triangular part, that is the Kasturi Nagar part, there we saw no visible level differences that could dictate where the water actually slopes towards. So we were thinking that along our pedestrian trails, maybe we can give provision like slope down towards the pedestrian trails, where the water can be channeled towards the pedestrian trails. And then anyways, we have these pedestrian trails cutting across the site to again the wetlands, and that connects to the lake. So this will provide a artificial channel, not a natural slope, but something that we have created just to channel the water across the site into the lake. So that was the reason for keeping it along the pedestrian trail. Second, about the vehicular movement that has not been addressed. So based on our understanding of the project, which might and or might not be the case for what was required, we kept it to a relatively conceptual level. And obviously coming to the next stage was the traffic flow, the materials of the roads that will be used there in order to slow down the traffic, and how the pedestrian crossing will happen. So that the question of material, infrastructure, and kind of structures that will come into place, we thought it was the next step into the process of design. So here we've kept it relatively conceptual.
I mean, even at a concept level, I think the traffic has to be resolved even before going to material. And that was the point I was trying to make. But thank you.
Yeah, and even the trail is right now cutting the railway line. So, I mean, you have to.
Yes.
Yeah. So,
yes, for that,
when you have to channelize below the railway lines, and it will hamper the traffic of the railway when you are doing that. So, yeah. Okay.
Yes, so for that, we actually were in our heads, we were thinking that maybe we can introduce overbridges or underpasses, because there is a Kasturi Nagar underpass where the traffic, goes under the railway station, and we were, the railway line, and we were considering that already what's on the site using the existing infrastructure as a reference, as well as, infrastructure that can be added on to make the connection more prominent and accessible, was one way we wanted to go about the design process.
Thank you. We have time for one last quick comment or question.
Just to understand, did you say you wanted to, or have you done that? Underpass or overbridge?
So we have thought of how can the connection be made from the so as we, if you can see from the master plan, this trail is continuing, this orange one you can see.
Yeah.
And that is going, and that is connecting to the underpass located somewhere here, which is so we are trying to give a direct pedestrian connection. We haven't really thought of the vehicular connection over here, but we're promoting more of pedestrian and cycle friendly movement, so that which is then connected to the already existing walkway in the southern side of this Penninga Halli Lake, and the red dark maroon, which is then connected to the metro.
Yeah, so this is essentially about the larger connection that we want to establish between the site and the upcoming metro station, because that was like a point that had come up in the visioning exercise also, that they wanted a better connection to the old Madras Road. And we saw that opportunity because there was already an underpass that was connecting to that part of the site. It was just a matter of introducing a more pedestrian friendly infrastructure. And there was already a walkway around the southern part of the Benengamli Lake. So we thought maybe we can just work with that and then connect to the new metro station and on the old Madras Road.
Yeah, that's a good one. Because there is already existing railway bridge over there, which you can probably, with railway's permission, you can use to make a connection, which is very crucial, by the way. When you have thought about it itself is a good thing. Yeah.
That is what my question was. Have you thought about it, or have you demonstrated it? Because I think none of the four sort of, it's just not to you, but all the four presentations, there was no seamless sort of, even if it's design intent, at a design intent, there was no seamless connect to larger systems, from park to resident to lake to metro station. It's all isolated, and then that is so have you, that's a question, have you thought or have you demonstrated? It's just a thought.
Yeah, so we tried to demonstrate it. Clearly, we did not do a great job. We'll work on it for sure. But yeah.
Thank you. We're unfortunately out of time now. Thanks, everyone. I'd like to hand it over to Sobia for closing comments.
Thank you. Thank you all.
Thanks, everyone, for the jury. And thanks for making the presentation and sticking to time. I would request all the participants to drop off from the call. The jurors, we will connect just because we'll take time to put down the scores and just have a very quick 10-15 minute discussion.